right, are we live? All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are joining us from today. Welcome to the dialogue series. I still see some people are still joining the session today. Today, this is the dialogue series on Digital Convergence Initiative. My name is Ernesto Broderson. I work at ESA as a senior official, and I deal with many things around technology and administration. If we could go to the next one, please. This is the sixth session on Digital Convergence Initiative. Today's agenda for this session today will, after the quick welcome, we will have a presentation from our keynote speaker, Maria Kitanova, sharing a little bit more about in-depth discussion around the French experience around interoperability, followed by a discussion. And obviously, and we do encourage everybody to do an audio, put some questions. We have a questions and answers down at the bottom of the screen. And we will also do a quick remarks. Some housekeeping rules, thank you. We do have this quick questions and answers button at the bottom. We do encourage everybody to share that. We also have a comments section. Feel free to share your comments, mostly any references that you have, links and resources that you may have that would also help us in the discussion as well. But make sure the questions are in the Q&A box. That will help our moderator today manage the session better. Today's session we have interpretation, so it is available in French, Spanish, and English. And so you make sure that you choose the button at the bottom to hear the audio recording that you want to listen to. And finally, last but not least, this will be recorded, as the other 5 sessions have been recorded, to share a little bit with everybody, including those people who have not been able to join us live today. So for the next one, thank you. What is a little bit about the Digital Convergence Initiative? This is a joint effort by the Universal Social Protection 2030, USB 2030 for short. It is engaging members and non-members and government officials and many different partners in trying to figure out and help institutions and countries gain knowledge about what does it take to have interoperability in the social protection space. We realize that different countries and institutions have different stages of development, and we have recognized the need that the systems, in order to be able to provide this universal social protection, should be within an ecosystem where there is innovation, and the systems do talk to each other and promote an integration through the standards that could reduce time and costs, as well as enable flexibility so that different countries can actually build their own systems. But we do this with different points of view, ensuring to try to build consensus and to ensure that all the different components can actually talk to each other, and to ensure that these systems are future-proof by design in general. Today's session, if we can go to the next one, is actually a deep dive of the French experience. This is a unique opportunity to see how France specifically has engaged in creating a solution around interoperability per se. And we will be having our first speaker, the keynote speaker from Maria, to talk a little bit about that and share. This is again one of this is the 6th session that we had. We've had sessions around Cambodia's experience, Chile, Turkey, Belgium, as well as the Karnataka state in India, to show how they actually engaged in this system per se. We go to the next one. You will see the link that we have for where all these resources are available for you. They're both the presentations that you will see today, as well as the recording will also be available in the website that we have outlined just below. So for quick introductions, I will introduce first Maria. If we can go to Maria Kitanova, who's the Director of IT Landscape and Expertise Information Systems Department at CNAV. That is the French Old Age and Retirement Insurance, where she has been leading that role for over almost 3 years now. She's had over 15 years of experience in working in different social protection institutions, including the National Family Benefits Funds and the Salary Workers Health Fund, as well as Contribution Collection Agency in France. She holds a degree in University of Strasbourg, as well as a master's degree in École Nationale Supérieure de Sécurité Sociale. We also have as a discussant, Andres Chamba, who's a social protection specialist for the World Food Program, who has been for over 13 years scoping and designing and implementing MIS supported social protection programs, working with governments and different stakeholders to make sure that they develop appropriate, feasible, and sustainable policy programs in general. He is currently developing an integrated M&E framework and tools to as an aggregate monitoring of the core World Food Program nation of the national social protection programs. We also have as a discussant Sudhashil Jain, he's an associate director of PricewaterhouseCoopers. He has nearly 15 years of diverse experience working with citizen registry, social protection platforms, large-scale digital transformation projects in government. He has worked in many different countries in social protection issues, including India, Morocco, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and he's an alumnus of the ITT in Kharagpur and the DCI Alia University. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. And last but not least, we have our moderator, Bonaparte Ruamia, sorry. He is the next one, please. Thank you. He's the Planning and Research Division Manager for the Rwanda Social Security Board, where he has about 10 years of experience, held its various positions and responsibility. He's currently the Manager for Planning and Research, and he has ample experience in a range of different topics, including strategic and business planning, performance management, as well as actuarial review and social security schemes, as well as the data management and analytics of risk management and compliance in the social security management and insurance. He holds a bachelor's degree in applied mathematics on the University of Rwanda and a master's in science in actuarial science on the Heriot Watt University in the United Kingdom. With that, that will be handing over the floor to Bonaparte. And I do wish you a great, very successful webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ernesto. Thank you everyone who have joined this session. I hope we are going to have an interesting conversation. Like he has just mentioned, we have a distinguished panel of speakers from Maria as a presenter, but also the two discussants that Ernesto was telling us about. We will first listen to the presentation from Maria, and then after that, we are going to have a conversation with her from our two speakers. Like it's been said, this presentation is going to be in English, but we do have, especially for those who have just joined, we do have translation in both French and and Spanish. I encourage everyone, I really want this to be very engaging and very participative. I encourage everyone to use the Q&A box to not only put in the questions, but also keep the conversation going. Put your input there, especially to the subject matter of today, from your own perspective. Answer the questions that are in the boxes. Tell us how are the system working on your side, to have this conversation going even in the chat box. So without any further ado, I want to thank you everyone who has joined. I hope we have a very healthy conversation, and I now welcome the presenter Maria to take the floor and take us through her presentation, and after that we shall have a conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bonaparte. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ernesto, also for your brilliant introduction. Thank you, Bonaparte. So I will first really present the National Old Age Insurance Fund in France. What is our role? What is our network? Then I will explain you what the main data exchange systems we have built, and also why, especially why. And at the end, I will present what data these main systems, these exchange systems, can distribute or disseminate to our partners of social security and public area. Firstly, what is CNAV, or National Old Age Insurance Fund in France? It is in charge, thank you, it is in charge of France's largest pension scheme. You maybe know that currently we have several pension schemes in France. This is one of the reasons our president intends to reform a pension system in France. Yes, you can maybe, yes, thank you. Wait, the next one, yes, thank you. So the National Insurance Fund was founded in 1945 after the Second World War, and it based on the principle of solidarity between the generations. So workers pay contributions, and these contributions pay pensions to retirees each month. This is the main principle. So some key figures: we have currently 15,000 employees, and we have 286 reception centers everywhere in France. We pay 135 million euros to 15 million persons in 162 countries, because we have retirees who choose to live in a foreign country. And we have currently 20 million contributors, so workers. The last figure is very important, and especially monitor it, because we have, you can see that we have more than 500,000 new retirees per year. So we can say that our activity is expanding, as the private sector would say. We have constantly our business expanding. So this figure is very important for us for using our IT, for using our employees. But I'll talk about it later also. What are our missions or main principal missions. In France, as soon as someone starts to work, we have an individual retirement insurance account, and the details of salaries and contributions are added to this account every year, and soon every monthly. And these data are based on the information contained in the Social Security declarations filed by employers directly. This is the DSN. This is only one simple declaration. It's not very simple, but it's only one declaration now currently. And these data are stored in databases operated by CNAV, by National Insurance Fund. So this data can be used and transmitted to our partners according to legislative regulations or specific agreement. I'll talk about it later. Another mission for us is to help insurers prepare for retirement. So all insurers can view their employment history records anytime on our website, l'assurance retraite, and the employment history record is it takes account of all of the employees' salaries and income on which contributions were leaved. So all these data are very important to calculations to pay pensions later. The employment history record contains the information used to calculate pensions for retirees. And as I said, there are several pension schemes or systems in France. So we need this data for all these systems or schemes. We also, we can, next slide, please. Yes, next slide, please, if you can just show, yes, thank you. So, of course, we have the mission to pay pensions every month. The pensions are paid monthly, and yes, it's the previous, in fact, just that was very quickly, just the previous slide maybe. And okay, so one of our main missions, yes, thank you, is to pay every month pensions and to update calculations or status of retirees. And we can also calculate new rights, of course. CNAV is, of course, involved in technical and financial evolutions of the French pension system. And we work really closely with French government to draft the annual social security budget, but also the annual social security law, because there is a law every year. We also work closely with French government for all regulations related to pensions, of course. We have now an electronic newsletter called Cadrage, but also open data accessible to all with I put the link there if you are interested. What is now our network? Next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you. So we have retirement insurance and occupational health offices in each region. We have 15 offices everywhere in France, and 286 reception centers, as I said. And we have also the general social security offices in the overseas departments. We have 11 offices in the overseas departments. And of course, now we have one website, only one website, and we have currently more than 12 million personal accounts there to date. Why the CNAV has this role as operator? Next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you. The National Old Age Insurance Fund has this role as operator by delegation from the Social Security Department, the DSS, and this delegation covered two main solutions, DGE and IPI-CQ. I'll talk about it later. These two systems play a central role in exchange of data between organizations in the social sphere, but also with the French administrations. What is DGE? Next slide, please. The exchange management system. Thank you. Yes, this is a platform for the dissemination of business data based on a catalog of partners and services, and each service corresponds to a specific exchange need. So in order to guarantee the business follow-up and coordination between the partners using the service, an organization positions itself as referent for this service. And the governance of this scheme is ensured by representatives of each of the social security bodies and the ministry, the DSS. To access to DGE, a partner must sign a DGE agreement and contractualize membership of a service for each service. Okay, some statistics or figures, maybe. Next slide, please. Thank you. In 2021, the DGE offered 40 services to 277 memberships, and it sent more than 11 million messages and more than 143 million web services calls. The platform is open 24 hours every day in the week, and the guaranteed availability rate is 99% in office hours and 95% at weekends, holidays, and nights. So we have a high level of availability rate. Next slide, maybe, please. Thank you. So what types of exchanges can we propose? Firstly, the file distribution. It allows a producer to push a file to many recipients without waiting for a response other than whether the file has been routed and to which recipients it has been routed. And the business data received in the producer file is disseminated to customers in its entirety without any modification. The most widely used type as it can carry a large volume of data. For example, in the context of dissemination of monthly income, in DG takes charge of the issue of 1,000 to 1,500 files generated by the reference monthly resources data. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about that later. We have this. We have to distribute, to disseminate this data each month. The DGE provides the DRM with a guarantee of delivery of the files entrusted to it. What kind of messages can we offer? Can DGE distribute? Next slide, please. So, as I said, we have file distribution, but also we have broadcasting message. Next slide, please. Can you share the next slide, please? Thank you. It allows a producer to push a set of messages to one or many recipients without waiting for a response other than to know if whether the message have been picked up and to which recipients they will be routed. The producer has the possibility of depositing messages by file or in real time. For example, when an insured person applies for a pension online on our website, Assurance Retraite, as I said, the service will submit the application to the DG in real time, specifying the recipient organizations. DG will aggregate the requests received and transmit a daily file to each of the target organizations. As I say, we have several pension organizations or schemes, and requests are then handled by the organizations in charge of this pension, of different pensions, to one person. In 2021, more than 1 million applications were submitted with the DGA. Another type of exchange is the real-time acquisition. So next slide, please, maybe. Real-time. Thank you. Exchange. Yeah. No, it's the previous. Sorry. Just before. Yes, thank you. It allows the customer to request one-to-many suppliers for a set of messages and obtain a response from the DG within a guaranteed time frame, even if one of the suppliers is unable to respond. For example, the Info Retraite portal, this is a website that offers services to retired insured persons, indicating the amount received from each of the schemes to which they have contributed. The service asks to the DG to collect information in real time from the various pension schemes. And this allows in one call to the DG to obtain an aggregate response from several data providers in a guaranteed short time, less than 1 second. So the last type of exchange is the real-time synchronous exchanges. So next slide, please. Yes, no, it's still the same. Thank you. A provider exposes a SOAP or REST web service through the DG, and one or more customers can access the supplier service by requesting the DG platform. For example, the career repository, AGCU, provides a real-time service offering for its partners. I'll explain you this type of data and this data the base later. In order to facilitate and streamline meetings with partners, the services are displayed on the DG, and DG also allows for the monitoring of the consumption of services. So we have this data exchange system, one of the two main systems, but we also have API Secu. It's another solution. Next slide, please. In the next one, thank you. Why API Secu? Why the second solution? Yes, thank you. The idea was to creating in API Secu because we need to meet the requirements of the digital law for data exchange between public service institutions, and because there are government commitments to digitize 100% of procedures by 2022. So the aim was to simplify the procedures for users in conjunction with Tell Us Once. So the API Secu was born with this principle, Tell Us Once, because we have many data and the aim is to use them without any requirements for individuals or for insured persons. What is the API process? Yes, next slide, please. You have, thank you. API Secu redesign of data access processes, and the aim is the empowerment of service providers in the process of requesting access to data. The scheme is in French. I'm sorry, but it's very simple. You have we have a website, and the institutions or the organizations can request access to data, and then we can allow or not the access, and then organizations or institutions can consume our data directly. And it's very specific. Next slide, please. It's specific because we, maybe next slide, thank you. We can allow access to data while respecting the current state of the art, yes. And we have so a protocol or process, because data exposure based on REST principle, but with JSON format. So we really respect the current state of the art. And we have high level of security and authentication. And we also offer documentation available on a developer portal. And the institutions or the organizations have also the possibility of using a sandbox for the development of their own applications. So we have, yeah, next slide, please. So, thank you. So the Secure API is part of the legislative framework imposed by Convergence, as I said, opening up the availability of data to administrations. And we offer also a guaranteed availability rate, 99% in office hours, 95% at weekends, holidays, and nights. And of course, this rate is guaranteed by agreement, specific agreement. For our partners, I propose you some examples. We can, next slide, please. Thank you. One of the use cases. We have our transport authorities offering their user-specific tariffs, and the calculation of these tariffs takes into account different information about the user, including the social benefits they receive. And this information can be obtained through the use of APIs, access to certified data via APIs accelerated this total dematerialization of the process, facilitates the processing of files, and reduce the risk of errors and declaration fraud. So we have this data, I'll talk about later, and we disseminate this data to transport authorities for these calculations with API. This is just one of the use cases. So you have then, next slide, please. So you can see both of main data exchange systems here on this scheme, DG and API Secure, and the operator, which is CNAV. And you can see also that our clients are the social security sphere, but also public administrations. So, which data for which platforms? Because I talk a lot about data, but which data? Next slide, please. So, of course, firstly, I propose to present the platform, the data platform, which contain career data. We have all data for pension calculations, and RGCU is into production in 2019. Currently, we have more than 4 billion career components. We have also over 70,000 users, and this data platform takes about 6 years of work because the loading of data is very progressive. Next slide, please. Thank you. As I say, there are many actors, the insured person, but also the employers, but also the collection agency, welfare organizations, and we progressively are allowed in 42 schemes. So we are mostly on the end, but we are not we are not still at the end. This platform contains the data of the insured person of the general scheme and the scheme of clerc et notaire currently. So this is one of our main data platform, but we have also another one, the last one, the more recent. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is the monthly resource device. It's into production in 2019. And this platform makes available the resources of individuals which serve as a basis for calculating social benefits. So we have salaries, of course, but also another income, taxes. And we have two bases, DSN for salary and pass-through for all income taxes. And you have also all our clients, so different institutions, social security institutions, or public administrations, actually. I propose you to use cases then. Next slide, please. Thank you. This platform offer the possibility to calculation of housing allowances by the family allowance funds without requesting proof of income from applicants. Previously calculated on the basis of declarated income for the year and without two, now calculated on an ongoing basis with monthly updates of resources directly by the DRM. We also can offer calculation of survivors' pensions by their pension funds or pension schemes without requesting supporting documents from widows directly by the DRM implementation plan for end of this year of 2022. Currently, we have you have key figures. We have more than 90 million individual blocks with this data, and we have per month 19 million mass restitutions and unit visits per month, almost 11 million. So that is, I don't know if you have any questions. Thank you for attention. Yes. Yes, Bonaparte, maybe. I don't know if you can read some or take some questions now.
Yes. Thank you very much, Maria, for the presentation.
You're welcome.
We are now going to have a conversation. I really want to bring in, at this time, I want to bring in Andres. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So,
yes.
Sure. So as this was really a very thoughtful presentation. I'm sure you have as you are listening to Maria, what were your thoughts? Do you have any questions to the presentation? I want to give you the floor so you can share with us what were your thoughts on the presentation, but also if you have any questions to ask Maria with regard. I know you have a rich experience when it comes to integration of systems and interoperability that we are discussing today. If you can share with us your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Very well. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Maria, for a very well thought out presentation and all encompassing on many of the policy program questions we usually have. I think most of that was very well answered. But I have a question, a follow-up question, perhaps for participants who are thinking on how to integrate, how to design from scratch information systems for their social protection sector, or more specifically, the social insurance or social assistance and the interoperability of those regimes. A little bit, if you can tell us a little bit more on how to make these information systems understood by recipients on the user end to demonstrate accountability, direct engagement, and feedback back to policymakers and administrators. And I saw, that was very interesting to see that you have a law on a law and a code of relations between the public and the administrators. If you can tell us a little more on that. These are some of the emerging questions we have in the countries where we work as WFP. We'd like to learn a little more on that experience.
I will answer in French, if possible. So it's okay.
And the accountability for the decision makers, for our politicians. Of course, there are like groups or clubs of users that are extremely important. Also satisfaction surveys, but usually once a year. And that's why we really monitor. We've been piloting actually a monitoring program. How to use the portal. So the number of connections, how many new accounts are opening, now all of this online. And after, there's the evaluation of the service provided, but also for our politicians, decision makers, an evaluation of the costs. That's very important also for politicians, for decision makers. And so we've seen in the presentation that our system is quite expensive. And so, you know, the developers, everybody that works with IT really provide their time individually on an individual basis. And so all of this is monitored very closely. In other words, we know how many in euros, was the cost for the construction and maintenance of this whole system or systems. And also, perhaps what's most complicated, and it's difficult to balance all of this out, is this equation, this final cost is justified by the value added by the services, and we're constantly looking into this. We never have like a right answer. I mean, what is the best cost for a given service, And once again, I insist on the role of the users because, yes, we have the law. The law says what we have to do, but definitely you have the users or these groups of users satisfaction surveys that are important so that the users themselves can tell us, if we're applying this law correctly with our system. Anyway, that's what I can contribute. Thank you.
Merci, Maria. Very clear, thank you. Yes. A couple of follow-up questions related as well and to Maria and discussants. And you touch a little bit on trade-offs, on costs and the effectiveness or the benefits of specific solutions and interventions. My follow-up question is, how to manage trade-offs within the social security or social protection sector that both aim at improving the efficiency and effectiveness of the system through the technological solution, in this case, the DRM, by reducing the burden on recipients and also the burden on government officials who are benefiting from these technological solutions. And is there a trade-off as well? If you can expand a little more on that.
Honestly, I don't know if there is a possible trade-off, because really our role is to provide a service and to deal with complex situations. Sometimes even the private sector doesn't do so well because we're social security, public service. And so we're talking about complex situations. And sometimes the private sector doesn't even do this well. And also, we're talking about these digital solutions with these costs, but the costs need to be reasonable, and so the trade-off really is not so clear-cut. But I'm convinced that, in order to deal with all the complex cases for a cost that's within our budget, and it's a public budget. And so it's the IT systems that can allow us to do this. It's technology. Because nowadays, we have a lot of data, big data, as we know very well. And so instead of reworking this data, retreating this data for each different organization, doing this individually, and that doesn't make sense. And so we can share all of this information. That's really the goal of these exchange systems, is to share all the information. And we know that sometimes the retirees are in complicated or fragile situations, and that can be very complex and delicate. But our role as well is to do the research. IT really is something that's changing every day, and we have to keep up.
Yes, thank you.
So I
very
don't know
much.
if this answers your question.
Jane, what are your thoughts? Do you have questions for Maria? If you have, the floor is yours.
So first of all, I would like to congratulate Maria in building such a system, and it's being widely used in France. My question is both non-technical and a bit technical. So first of all, how do you convince the stakeholders to come together? Because the beauty of the systems only come to life only when you convince others to join such a system. That's part one. Second part of the question is, once they have decided to join you, how do you standardize the communication that, okay, A is understood as A and not B? These are the two questions I have to begin with.
So in any case, in France, we need to have a political sponsor.
So it's necessary to have somebody who will support this.
We can have partners
the idea is
that
to have
participate
those partners,
in the
that will
data
help,
exchange.
and they have to be.
As I said, we have every year a law of social security, but it's not elaborated by the government itself. It's not proactive. We bring a service offer, ideas, for example, of the strategy of how to use systems to exchange data. And these ideas or these solutions, in fact, they are retranscribed or not in the law, depending of the government accepting it. And usually the system of resource exchange, this system, that is the data of the sources that are going to other partners so that we can help social aids, is something that was in the law with a trajectory that is this or that organization should use this tool to calculate, of course, in a progressive way, and not in the same time as with everyone. And then they get in touch with us to make the contract and also to see all the aspects of the construction and adherence with our system to be implemented. And then we implement some projects to change the law. But in the beginning, we need to have a political sponsor. And in this way, this N did it, but there were public and private partners so that this unique declaration could be enforced. So it's because there was a political will so that it could be achieved. So sometimes it's like volunteers working. And effectively, it helps also if we have political sponsor, because in general, this project needs some means or a budget. And sometimes it's very important. And also the will and the means are necessary. I don't know if I answered to your question completely.
Yes, you did. My second question is on the privacy related aspects. So while there is a lot of data being transferred from one point to another, how do you ensure that the data does not fall in wrong hands?
Yes, effectively, it's a question that should be treated not in the moment of the implementation, but for me, in the moment of the conception of the solutions for data exchange. To give you an example, mensual monthly tool that we use in the conception moment of the proposal that we had done of information technology solutions, because it has to do with salaries, with sources. So very sensible data, very personal data. So in the conception phase, we have respected the security security needs, and then we needed to make one base for the salaries and for the taxes, and also to respect our authorities. We needed to do two bases, actually separated, one for the salaries and one for the taxes. So if one of them were attacked or hacked, we could know that this separation would be enough for us to be safe. So no data would be compromised. So it's just one example. What I mean is that if we had not taken into consideration these demands since the conception, from the beginning, we would have used an only base. Sorry for the noise here. Sorry. All the construction would be compromised if we had started without taking into consideration all the exigencies. And to finish, today, for example, there's a lot of ways of fabrication that DevOps, this building method for software, DevSecOps for us, because security must be in it. So I will close my window here. Sorry, 1 minute.
Just a small question, but it might be important for the other audiences. So maybe if some other country wants to implement such a system, what are the top few learnings you would want to share with them so that they can keep some things in their mind when they're designing different systems?
Yes, Will, I would like to share some lessons that we have learned, because in fact, in the red line, I think that we need to have a very clear expression of a strategy, a functional strategy. What are the objectives of the systems or the platform or the exchange system? What is it for? That's the question you have to answer for sure. It's very important. And for the API, it's very easy to use a technological solution, but if you don't have the use cases, it's useless. At first, you need to have this strategy very clear, and then technology will follow. You can use different technologies according to your strategy if it's clear. And then for me, the most important is the staff, the personnel, the competences you can use. When you build an exchange system or data platforms, you need to have some competences regarding the conception, to translate the strategy in that technological solution, you need some designers, some architects, and then you need competences of piloting or management or whatever you want to call it. Effectively, I don't reduce it to development, but of course you have some technologies today that can you have low code, you have robots that can code. So sometimes there's the expression of the needs or use cases or strategy, and then we have the conception, and then effectively we have, especially for the big projects, what will pilot, what will manage the teams and the program. Another thing, another very important point is what I have said, the building method, the procedure. Agile, for example, DevOps, it's very fashion, but can you do Agile everywhere? When you build a platform or a system, a software from the scratch without being integrated in plus global ecosystem, it's easy. But if you need to integrate it with another systems, another ecosystem, then Agile is a little bit complicated. So you need to adapt, even if sometimes you think it's very seductive to use some strategies, but it depends on the ecosystem that you are using. And then, according to my experience, I would say that the resource base is a system built from scratch, completely new. So maybe it could be done very fast, but when you start to integrate it with systems from partners, in that moment, you need to trust the competences of people, people who know the old systems, let's put it this way, so that you do not regress or you do not have failures in the systems. And finally, technology regarding human, we see that we can choose Java, we can choose another platform, but technology, it follows human if you have conditions that I have mentioned previously. And finally, another important point, as I had said, in our organizations, in our ecosystems, they are very complicated. It's true that we need political sponsors because effectively it is about very sensible data, about health, about identification of people, and we need to have a political coverage or the law, if you will, to be with us. For the budget, for the means, you need to have that also because we have subjects, for example, use of sensible data, how to prevent against it according to the law, and everything according to the safety tools. That's it.
So these are some of the risks we have to manage. We have to pay special attention to all of these points, especially in our world of IT nowadays. Did I answer your question? Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
The first one, my first question is a confirmation that I want. So the system is used to for collection of contributions, right? I just wanted that confirmation. If the systems are using, your systems are used for contribution collection, and maybe related to that is, do you have? Because I understand you have many clients. Do you have people with contributors with careers that cut across different pension providers, and how do you manage their pensions if I think has to be calculated based on the careers, and maybe the pension providers are changing across career. Is such a thing? Do you have such a thing happening? If it does happen, how do you handle that in the system? And then my final question is on satisfaction. How do you measure satisfaction of not only your clients, but even pensioners across France and beyond? Thank you.
Okay. Alors, sur le premier point.
Well, as regards to your first point about the contributions, the social contributions and taxes, their fiscal contributions, that it's not our institution that's in charge of that. There is a different agency that does that, and they have their own IT system. And also those beyond the Social Security that collect and calculate the taxes. And so two separate institutions, and of course, we do have linkages between them. We do share data with these institutions, definitely, but the calculations, the data collection, that's another organization, okay? So we haven't yet, brought these two activities together. These are activities that are under the responsibility of other organizations, other institutions. Now, regarding the calculation of pensions, and so we have the database for the different careers, right? And as I explained, the upload or the input and maintenance is progressive. I mean, nowadays the data is collected into the database, but so that each system can consume this data to calculate the pensions, it's not yet the case for the entire system. This is being done progressively because, like I said, we're doing this step by step within the system because it's not easy to do. And of course, currently, according to our law, each pension system is in charge of a given population. So our institution does not do the calculations for all of the pensions and retirements in France. And so we work with the data uniquely with each career. That exists, but that's being built, step by step. It's a lengthy process. And I'm sorry, I think maybe I didn't answer the third question. If you can just refresh my memory, please. Right. I said we have an annual satisfaction survey where the users fill in the survey once a year, and we can monitor what's going on. And of course, there are these clubs or groups of users that exist, and from certain regions, for example, that participate in these different groups and tell us that, in a certain website, there should be activities for their regions or, other services that are not being provided as to date. Also, a greater autonomy of the retirees. And so we really try to provide the best services and always monitor these user groups so that all our websites or portals or systems can be the best as possible. Also, we have user groups, but for internal users of our systems in the same way, try to show this in the different agencies so that we can monitor the evolution of the information system as a whole. Now, what we haven't developed so much yet, this is something that we still have to do, especially in the private sector, is to have almost like a real-time evaluation. When somebody logs onto the website, something that they could fill out. Anyway, this is something that we've identified, but we still have to deploy this from our services. Not the humans, for example, we already have that, but in evaluation regarding the services provided. Yeah, that's something we still have to do. For example, like via a chat service or online, anyway, to obtain this information, and also, I'm sorry, I'm almost done, but something that's important. Also social media, because satisfaction, is constantly being measured on social media. Different retirement operations, etc. Whenever something comes up in the news, there's a lot of buzz, on Twitter and other social media. And so satisfaction or dissatisfaction, can be measured quite well through social media as well. And of course, we cannot ignore that. We have to look into it. I think that's it.
Two questions. I will read the first one and you first respond to that one. And then after your response, I will read the second one. So the first question is coming from Dubois, who is asking, on top of standardization of APIs, interoperability is about standards of data exchanges. Now the question is, are you using any data normalization catalog to share same interpretation of data between parties? If so, is it a French standard or international standard?
Oui, effectivement.
Yeah, I mean, with this type of solution, the question is very interesting, but the secure API uses a catalog, but that's French. It's not an international standard. The data that circulates. So the answer is really hybrid. I mean, currently, the standardization is French. It's internal, because for now, in terms of the needs, the demands, we're still defining everything. So we're building this catalog as we move forward, and after for the data transmission, perhaps international standard. So if the underlying question is perhaps if these solutions could be open, let's say, to an international level, international standard, yes. Technically, yes. But then the issue is, the regulation, because this is very sensitive data. Now, for now, the secure API, I don't know if you got that from the presentation, but this API is open only for our partners, Social Security partners. And so it's not yet open to everyone, to the private sector, for example, okay? But of course, if there are other institutions at an international level, technically, yes, we could adapt the solution.
The second question in the chat box is in French. I will read it in French. La question c'est, la question vient de...
So the question is from Muja Wadega. How do you verify the authentication of documents by the beneficiaries who live in other countries? So how is this verification of authenticity? Right. The volume of individuals and the quantity of data that we manage is greater than the French population, because there are those that are born overseas, but that work in France, or are retired in France, but live in another country, and they have the right to receive their retirement or pension. And so we have these types of users, and we have to do the authentication and verification. But these documents, I mean, once they're retired, we also have to certify all the documents to justify the payment of their pension or retirement. And so it's very complex. It's a complex issue, authenticity, because it's really not so much related to an IT system, an information system. This depends on bilateral conventions celebrated between France and the other country. The information system itself for different controls, pre and post controls, but and what I said before, the condition is that these controls need to be very well specified. I mean, if we say we need to control the birth date on a birth certificate, for example, in such and such field, and then we can do that. I mean, currently you have solutions that allow to have this type of control. That we don't have to like reinvent the wheel, if you will. But for us, that's not an issue. We can only use this if this type of control is requested and well specified. Of course, this has to do with the conventions between different countries, agreements celebrated between different countries. But, you know, AI, facial recognition, OCR, all of these technologies can be used, but also, you know, technology or AI, it exists, but if we don't know what we're looking for, you know, in what field within the document, there's a margin of error, target margin of error. You can use AI, but it can be dangerous. Anyway, usually, we need to receive a clear demand. I mean, what type of document? You know, a document from foreigners or not. But anyway, even if we're talking about an internal document, social security numbers, etc., we see that sometimes, even internally, even people born in France, you know, there can be a certain confusion of identity. There are some problems sometimes, and then we can use artificial intelligence to have better criteria and not to confuse the identity of two people that are almost identical, you know, perhaps the same first name and surname. And so
thank you very much for that. I think we are heading towards the end of this webinar. I don't see any more questions coming from our audience. I would like to give the speakers their parting words. If they have anything that they wanted to share, I'd like to give the speakers their parting words. If they have anything that they wanted to share or last burning question, I will be giving 1 minute per speaker, starting off from Andreas.
Thank you.
Any final words that you want to say?
Thank you, Bonaparte. Yes, a couple of takeaway points from Maria's responses to a series of questions on the presentation. One is important to reflect, yes, on the institutional arrangements and the legal frameworks that exist or do not exist in the country, and those should precede, as Maria mentioned, any technological solution development and so on. Sometimes in some contexts, we are rushed into delivering a technological solution, a software, without really settling down all of those arrangements in the first place. And that's very challenging, and it takes a lot of dedicated time, especially pulling, coordinating, and brokering from different series of different stakeholders that are also providing assistance to the populations. One area, just to mention, is of course the World Food Programme is usually brokering some of these data exchanges from the humanitarian actors and humanitarian sector with the social protection, social insurance, and social assistance as well. And we're helping governments think through precisely, first, the institutional arrangements, the legal frameworks needed, and the policy frameworks for that. And I think this has been reinforced by what Maria has said on the experience in France. So it's very illustrative, and a lot of good practices, I would say, for all of us working in other countries in different contexts, and a lot of lessons learned as well as takeaways from this intervention. And thank you again, Maria and colleagues, for a very well thought out presentation and intervention. Back to you, colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Andreas. Jen?
Yes, so my takeaways from this webinar is, first of all, start with the right support, a political support or a leadership support to back your program and effort, so that ecosystem can come together and the results of technology can be available to all. Second interesting thing that came was design the system with the end result in mind. Who will be your consumers? What they're looking for from your system. The third one is use security and privacy parameters in mind while designing the system, and also while you are building the system. And the fourth one is have standardization as per the national models available, or if the national models are not available, then use international models, and also focus on the data quality so that your systems give reliable data to the end consumers. These are the 4 takeaways I believe in this session.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Andreas and Gian for really helping us to digest this presentation from your questions. It was really, really very helpful. Finally, I want to also hear from Maria, from the questions that have been asked, and from these final thoughts from our speakers. What are your final words on this presentation and on this subject of today?
This is a question for me?
Yes, yes. I want you to share your final thoughts.
Okay.
As we wrap up the call, yes.
Je vais revenir sur un petit point que j'avais abordé tout à l'heure en vous disant qu'effectivement, je pense que notre rôle en tant que service public, c'est effectivement de, certes, appliquer la loi, mais c'est la base, c'est le service premier, le service basique, mais le service plus, c'est effectivement de s'occuper des populations les plus fragiles. Et en fait, je pense que c'est ce qui motive aujourd'hui beaucoup de ces compétences très rares qu'on a du mal à identifier sur le marché IT, en tout cas en France, mais je crois savoir que c'est un peu partout en ce moment dans tous les pays. Et c'est effectivement, en même temps, c'est difficile d'avoir cette équation entre on doit s'occuper des populations les plus fragiles, avec des situations les plus compliquées, avec des IT avec des moyens raisonnables, mais en même temps, c'est la motivation de beaucoup de personnes qui viennent, qui nous rejoignent, qui viennent travailler dans nos organisations. Et donc, je pense qu'en ce sens-là, on peut être fier, en fait, voilà, qu'on travaille pour cette cause commune et à une très, très forte plus-value sociétale, et ce qui nous permet aussi du coup de proposer un service et notamment des systèmes d'information de qualité. Donc voilà, je voulais terminer, je voulais redévelopper cette idée et puis terminer sur ce point-là, mon intervention.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you for this. I think this was I'm sure the participants, wherever you are, we are clapping for Maria for the presentation and for sharing the experience. I'm sure in different countries there are different initiatives. I also take this opportunity to thank the organizers, because this is really a very, very timely topic. Because I think we have to help, we have to provide a better service, and technology is there to exactly do that. So it's good that we are having this conversation at this particular moment. With that, I want to thank everyone, especially the speakers, Maria, Andres, and Jen for their contributions. And I will hand over to Judith to help us wrap up this call. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bonaparte. And also from my side, thank you so much, Maria, Sudhanshu, and Andres. And yeah, it's been a pleasure listening in. And I hope I can speak for everyone when we internally clap in front of our computers. Or even in person, like Bonaparte is doing right now. Yeah, thank you for joining the session. And so there is so we have, as also Ernesto has shared in the beginning, we have had previous sessions. So this is the 6th session. So if you're interested in the topic, please go to our website of the Convergence Initiative and go and listen in. There we have recordings of every session as well as learning briefs. And we will do the same for the session as well. So there will be a learning brief that will be uploaded in about, let's say, 2 weeks' time. And there will also be the recording. So if you want to go back to some of what Maria or any of the discussants and speakers have said, then you can listen in as well. Yeah, otherwise, thank you so much. Fernanda has just shared a little link that we would ask you to answer to give us some feedback. And yeah, otherwise, please keep in touch. Come to our next session. So the next session is going to be on the 11th of October. This will be on Zambia. You can also write to us a mail at sp-convergence.org if you want to receive more information. And yeah, otherwise there's nothing else than to wish you a lovely day ahead or evening, dependent on where you are. And yeah, thank you very much. Merci et bonne soirée.
Merci. Au revoir.